Hello, this is Sean Briscoe, and in this presentation I will discuss your first debate tournament. For those of you who have been competing over the years, or even at your second or third tournament, going to a tournament becomes old hat. It's just something that you know how to do and you really don't think about it. But for those first year competitors who are going to the first tournament ever, the entire tournament experience can be a little bit daunting, and so I'd like to spend just a little time talking about what it's like to go to your first tournament, some of the things that you should be familiar with and that you should be aware of. Specifically, we'll look at 5 different things. Going to the tournament itself, meeting with your school before you ever even arrive at the tournament, your arrival on campus, the dead time that comes up between debate rounds, because there will be some dead time during the tournament. Once the time has arrived for you to actually go to competition, what will happen in that period of time, and then also the awards near the end of the tournament. So before the tournament even begins, there are a couple of things that are important to you. First is related to dress and appearance. You want to look professional. Regardless of the circuit that you compete on, you want to look professional. Now, different circuits have different expectations of the competitors. On local lay judge circuits, most of the students will be competing in suits. On the national circuit, people will be more casual. They may be competing even in jeans and t-shirts. But regardless, I would recommend that you look professional. Don't look sloppy. Look like you put a little bit of thought into your appearance and that you care for yourself and care about what you look like. No one has ever been, that I'm aware of, no one has ever been penalized for looking nice, but I can tell you that some judges do in fact hold it against competitors when they don't look professional. Also, make sure that when you've been told where you're supposed to be for the tournament, that you are actually there on time. Better yet, be there 5 or 10 minutes early to make sure that you either don't get left behind or that you don't cause the entire team to be late for the event. So make sure that you show up on time when your coach has told you where and when to be in order to meet for that tournament. Once you get to the tournament venues vary. They come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes you'll be in a little school with maybe 2 hallways and that's it. But other times you'll go to a really large high school that has multiple wings. The numbering schemes may be interesting and difficult to figure out. You might even go to a tournament at a college campus where you're using multiple buildings on campus. Some of the really big tournaments, like the National Championship Tournament for the National Speech and Debate Association or the Harvard Invitational Tournament, those tournaments are so big that they're using multiple campuses in metropolitan areas. And so it can be difficult to find your way around. And so it's important for you to do 3 things when you get to the tournament. First, your school should identify a rallying point, a place for you to meet in between rounds. At many tournaments, in fact most tournaments, there will be a student commons area, maybe there will be a cafeteria, a concession stand, and those types of things. Most teams will identify a table in that area that they will come back to in between rounds, that they can meet up, that they can talk about what's going on, that the coach can make sure that he or she knows where everyone is. I will be honest, at some of the really big tournaments, some of the national circuit tournaments, when I've taken teams to those events, we don't even necessarily find an area in the student commons. We may find a quiet little corner someplace in a hallway, or maybe there's a Starbucks across the street. We will find someplace like that that we can meet up in between rounds, and everyone should know where that rallying point is so that you can get together and have discussions. You'll also want to find out where the postings are going to be released. Most tournaments have some sort of paper postings. In fact, I think all tournaments still use paper to some degree. So they may hang a copy of the pairings on the wall. They might even print a lot of copies and hand them out to people. But you will want to find out where those postings are going to be released so that as the first round comes up, or the second or the third round, you'll know where to go. It might even be possible that those postings are being done electronically. Maybe there's a website that they're posting them on, so you'll want to make sure that you know the URL so that you can save it on your phone so that you know where to go to find the postings. Or maybe they're even releasing the pairings via text, and so you'll want to sign up so that you get texted your assignments. Regardless, you want to find out how you're going to get the pairings and where to find them. You'll also want to make sure that you're familiar with the venue itself. If you know that all of your debate rounds are going to occur in the E hallway of a school, make sure that you know where the E hallway is. If you know that all debate rounds are going to take place in the Ridge and the Sewell buildings on campus, make sure that you know where the Ridge and Sewell buildings are, so that when it comes time for your round, you aren't running around campus trying to figure out where you're supposed to be, you're not getting lost. You want to know where things are on campus. If you're at a really big tournament, make sure that you get a copy of the campus map, either electronically or on paper, so that you can use that to help find your way around and navigate the campus as well. So, when you have, quote unquote, nothing to do, there are a lot of times at debate tournaments where you have nothing to do. You'll arrive at the campus and it might be 30-40 minutes before the first round starts. You might have an hour in between rounds 2 and 3. You're going to have some dead time. You might even have a couple hours of dead time. Some important things for you. One, which I didn't put on the bullet points, but make sure that you are keeping yourself fed and hydrated. You don't want to crash during the middle of a tournament. Take care of yourself, but also take care of the venue. Your hosts have given up their facility in order to host an event for you. Be respectful of them and be respectful of that space. Don't trash it, don't vandalize it. Make sure that you're picking up after yourself, whether it be the trash that you're accumulating as you're having a snack, or putting the desks back in order after you've completed a round. They're giving up their time to you. Be respectful of them. And to be completely honest with you, administrators can get pretty upset when debate teams don't take care of facilities during tournaments, and it is within their right to deny the coach access to that building in future years. And so you don't want to be a part of the problem that prevents that tournament from happening again in the future. Be respectful of the host. You can also take time to prep when you have nothing else to do. Work on your pre-flows, reorganize your files, talk to your teammates on different strategies or how to improve your case. Talk to people from other schools about how to do that. Work on getting better. But perhaps even more important than that, make friends while you're at the tournament. Get to know people. One of the unique things about debate is that you don't just go and compete against a faceless enemy. We actually spend time getting to know people. Some of my best friends over the years came from the world of debate. Some of the best friends of my students have been people that they met at tournaments when they were traveling across the country or across the state or even across the city. Take the time to mingle and just meet people. Find out what they're up to. Find out how they approach debate and what they're doing in school. Just get to know people and make friends. It's part of why we're here. And be supportive of your teammates too. If you're not competing but your teammates are, help them get ready. Go and show support for them. And spend time watching and learning from other competitors. If you don't have something to do, go and sit in and see what someone else is doing and see what you can learn from them. But always be respectful of those competitors. Be respectful of the judge who's critiquing and evaluating those participants. That means not giggling, not talking, not crumpling paper. Make sure that you're being quiet and that you're being attentive during rounds. It's also possible that if you're going to watch someone, maybe they've already begun by the time you arrive. You should not interrupt them to come in and watch. Ideally, you would sit out in the hallway and listen through the door and wait for a break in the action so that you can then walk in without disrupting people. But the bottom line is just be quiet as you enter that room and make sure that you're not disrupting other people. So now it's time for competition. Whether it's round 1 or round 4, you're ready to move to the next round of competition. The tournament hosts will release the pairings or the postings usually between 10 and 20 minutes before the round is supposed to start. Like I said earlier, you'll want to find out where those pairings are going to be released, whether it's electronically or whether it's by paper. Find out where to go. And then those postings are going to show you all types of things related to what you're supposed to be doing. It will tell you what time the round starts, It'll tell you whether you're on the affirmative or the negative. If you're participating in other events, it'll tell you when you're supposed to speak relative to other competitors. It will tell you the room number. It may even tell you the judges. But it may also be on the pairings using some sort of a code. And so that code could be simple, like 1 Briscoe Rhodes. That means Briscoe and Rhodes are partners in policy debate, perhaps, and they attend School 1, or they compete for School 1. But some tournaments won't identify the names. They'll just give you an alphanumeric code. So School 1, for example, and Team C, meaning there's an A, B, and a C team from School 1. And so Briscoe Rhodes might be the C team for School 1. Or the pairings may identify them as 1BR for 1 Briscoe Rhodes. Or possibly even by school name, like South, BRRH. And so there it's identifying, instead of a number code, they've actually told you the name of the school, and then using the first 2 letters of the names to identify who you are, or specifically which team it is. And then you can have various permeations of any of those 4 examples. You might have South C, for example. And then that will help you to identify where you are on the postings and where you're supposed to be. And before the tournament starts, someone from the tournament or your coach should be able to tell you what your code is going to be, or how you will identify yourself on the pairings. So let's take a look at an actual pairing, or a fake pairing. But you can see here a sample of what a pairing might look like. This is for policy debate, round 1 of a tournament, taking place at 8 a.m. So that tells you a few things, that what time and the round is supposed to take place. And then I can go, okay, I was told that my code was going to be 1 Briscoe Rhodes. So all I need to do is look on the sheet of paper, and you can see the third pairing has 1 Briscoe Rhodes on it. And you can see that that's in the column labeled negative. So I know then that I am on the negative side of the debate, and the affirmative that I'm going up against is school number 7, Will Keith Hickfeld. And we're debating them in room E109, and the judge is Margaret Thatcher. So now I know quite a bit of information. I know that I need to be at the room at 8 o'clock. I probably actually want to be there a few minutes before that. I know that I'll be debating in room E109, and then, like I said, I know that I'm going up against school code 7, Will Keith Hickfeld, and now I just need to figure out some information about them. Maybe some of my teammates know them, know what case they run, and so maybe I can start getting prepped for the round before it even starts. If I know that they're running a Coral Reefs affirmative, I can start pulling evidence on the Coral Reefs affirmative. I can also identify that my judge is supposed to be Margaret Thatcher. I can ask my teammates if they know who Margaret Thatcher is and how she evaluates debate, what her philosophy on judging is, what her philosophy on debate is. Maybe I can even look her up on one of the many different places online that house judging philosophies and judging paradigms, and I can find out a little bit about her so that I can tailor my communicative efforts towards her as I debate. So this is a typical debate round, like I said, a typical preliminary round in which you know that you are assigned to the negative. And over the course of a debate tournament, say 4 rounds, you'll go affirmative twice and negative twice. There are some unique circumstances where you don't necessarily know if you're going to be affirmative or negative, though. And in those rounds, they are flip for sides rounds. And there's really 2 instances in which we have flip for sides debate. One is when you have an odd number of rounds at a tournament. Some tournaments with an odd number of rounds will say there's 5 preliminary rounds. During the first 4 rounds, you know that you'll go affirmative twice and negative twice. But during round 5 of that tournament, the odd round, it might be a flip for sides round, meaning that you'll flip a coin, and whoever wins the coin toss will get to choose whether or not they're going affirmative or negative. Similarly, in elimination rounds, once we've finished with preliminary debates, we'll move into the elimination round phase, or the elimination phase of the tournament. And in those instances, it is usually a flip for sides round as well, meaning that as you move into those elimination debates, you get to flip the coin to decide who will be affirmative and who will negative. So what do those postings look like? Here you can see, again, we're in policy debate, the semifinal round taking place at 7 p.m. and it tells you right there at the top of the pairings, flip for sides. You can see then that I am Briscoe Rhodes, one Briscoe Rhodes, and we're debating in room E107, so I know where I'm going to go at 7 p.m. or a little bit before. I know that I'm going up against McMullen and Savoy, and because it's a flip for sides debate, I know that we will flip a coin at that point. So, what can I start doing then? I know that I'm debating them. I can find out from my teammates or other people who have debated them what they run when they're on the affirmative, so that when we end up on the negative, or if we end up on the negative, where we have a little bit of preparation, or we can be a little bit prepared. We might even talk to people about, well, when you were affirmative against them, what was their negative strategy? And so we can start thinking about how we might answer their negative strategy. We can also see that the judges are Condoleezza Rice, John Stuart Mill, and Martin Luther King Jr. We can find out from our teammates, friends from other schools or online databases, how those three judges approach judging debate rounds, so that we can think about how we'll want to debate. And maybe even that tells us some information about whether or not we want to be affirmative or negative. I should also point out that the next room in the semifinal debate is a little bit different. If you look down on the bottom pairing of debates in room G107, you can see that Denzel Washington and Anna Kendrick are going up against Velma Wallace and Catherine Peters. But you can see that it actually identifies Washington Kendrick as the AF team and Wallace Peters as the negative team. Why is that, even though this is a flip for sides round? Well, what happened was in preliminary rounds, these two teams hit each other. And in the preliminary rounds, Wallace Peters were on the affirmative and Washington Kendrick were on the negative. So now that they're hitting each other for a second time during the tournament, they're going to have to debate the opposite side that they debated in prelims. So that's why it's identified for them that Washington Kendrick are on the AF. Okay, so that's reading the postings. Then, of course, you want to be punctual. I've usually recommended to my debaters that they arrive at the competition room 5 minutes before the start of the round. Make sure that you're there, that you're not going to hold things up to get that round started. Also, be respectful of your opponents. When your opponents are speaking, make sure that you're being quiet. Don't toss papers around really loudly. Don't drop pens and things like that really loudly. Don't talk to your partner really loudly. You want to make sure that everyone can hear your opponents as they are speaking. So be respectful of them while the competition is taking place. After the round is over, of course, you will want to pack up your things. You'll want to get ready to move on to the next round. However, do not pack up while your opponents are speaking. Usually that happens when you are on the negative, and so the second affirmative rebuttal is giving her speech. Do not be disrespectful by sitting there and packing up all of your things and standing up at your chair as you pack up. Listen to the 2AR. See what she is saying. Find out how she's approaching that debate and learn from it. Similarly, some debate tournaments will allow for oral critiques after the debate round. That will be the opportunity for the judge to give feedback to you and your opponents. They may still write comments on the ballot, but they may offer oral comments as well. While they're giving their oral critique to you, you should be paying attention to them, not packing up. While your judge is giving an oral critique to your opponents, you should be listening to that critique, not packing up. Now, some people say, but the judge isn't talking to me. Well, in a way they are. Yes, they might be giving specific feedback to your opponents, but you can still learn from that feedback too. Make sure that you're taking the time to listen to them. And then that's your round. So your rounds are over. We know what we're doing during debate rounds, just before debate rounds, and during the dead time at the tournament, but we also have awards as well. Near the end of the tournament, there will be most tournaments will have some sort of awards assembly. There are three things that I like to highlight there. One is stay in your competition attire. Or I know sometimes that you're in a hurry to get out to a bus maybe after awards or to go catch an airplane flight, and so people will want to change. And maybe that's okay if you really are taking off immediately after that round, or excuse me, immediately after the awards ceremony, so maybe you want to change, but still look professional. I know a lot of coaches and a lot of judges who get irritated when they see students who have been competing at the tournament and they go and they change into their pajamas before the awards start, and then they go up on stage dress for bed or the long bus ride home or whatever. Stay looking professional all the way up through those awards, because there really are people who will come and they will judge you, evaluate you based on your appearance, even at awards, and you may see them at future tournaments, and that may impact their understanding of you and your credibility. Also, be respectful. You should be gracious in winning and losing. Do not disrespect other individuals at the competition. Make sure that during the awards you are paying attention, that you're listening, that you're clapping for the people who are winning awards, rather than talking to your peers and not paying attention. And also being disgruntled. Sure, it's a competition. I get that. I know that there are times when you're going to be upset because you thought that you should have done better, or maybe you lost a debate round and you really thought that you won it, or that you should have won it. Regardless, you should still be respectful of everyone else at that tournament. Show that respect. Show that you're supportive of other individuals and that you're happy for them too, even though you might be upset about yourself or upset about how things turned out for you. But I also think it's important to highlight the idea that you should act like you've been there before. I have always told my debaters that when they win an award and they're up on stage and they're announced to be the champion of the tournament or third place at the tournament, that it's okay to be happy and excited that you won, but being overly theatrical about it and jumping up and down and going crazy tends to send the message to a lot of people that, oh my goodness, you were so lucky, you've never done that before. And that actually can harm their impression or negatively impact their impression of you in the future. Act like you've been there and stay professional, and people will, like I said, like you more, or at least not judge you harshly for your behavior. And that really holds true for even your teammates too. As your teammates are cheering you on, or as you're in the audience and you're cheering for your friends and your teammates, cheer for them. That's fine. That's great. But the really loud, ruckus excitement that sometimes goes on can turn some judges off. And so just be cognizant of that fact. Above all, early in my debate career, I really had these goals implicitly, or in my coaching career, I should say. I had these goals for my team implicitly, and then sometime around 2006, 2007, I started expressing them overtly to my students. But when I go to a tournament, my goals for them have nothing to do with winning and losing, awards or championships. My goals for the students are twofold. I want them to have fun, and I want them to learn something. This is a competitive activity. It's a social activity. It should be something that they enjoy. I want my students to have fun. They should make the time and effort to have fun, and they shouldn't get caught up with being stressed out about whether or not they're going to succeed and that sort of thing. I want them to have fun. It's also an educational activity. I became a coach because I am a believer that this activity opens doors for people, that it really does prepare them for the future. And the way that it does that is by being a meaningful learning ground for them, giving them the opportunity to learn and grow. And so when we go to tournaments, I want them to have fun. I want them to learn something. I once had a student, by the way, David Williams in Fort Walton Beach High School, who once emailed me and he said, you know what, as I reflect back on my debate career, he was a senior and I'd moved away to Alaska. And he said, as I look back and reflect on my debate career and all of the things that I've learned, I no longer define tournament success by winning or losing. He defined success by whether or not he was repeating mistakes of the past, or whether he was learning something new. And under that definition of success, he said, I can go to a tournament and not win I can win every single round, be crowned champion of the tournament, and consider that tournament to be a failure. I can go to another tournament with 6 preliminary rounds and go 0-6, but if I improved, if I made myself better, if I learned something in those rounds, that can be a success. What's interesting about having this mentality, though, of having fun and learning something, is that if students are having fun, they're going to learn something. And if they're learning something, the competitive success will come. And so as you prepare your students, if you keep the focus on having fun and learning something, even if your students are super concerned with winning, rest assured, if you help them achieve these two goals, they will eventually win. So I think that when you look back at a tournament, help your new folks to not stress out. Help them to have a comfortable experience when they go to that tournament. You can do a number of things to help them by ensuring that they know where they're supposed to meet, help them to read the pairings, and showing support for them. Keep all of those in mind, and you should have a wonderful first tournament experience.